Hi, everybody. Welcome back to 1908, and it's still April 23rd, 1908. We have quite a few games to show for you, to show to you today. Today, we've got the Highlanders and Athletics. When I say we have quite a few games to show to you today, this is today as in April 23rd, 1908. We'll take a look at the standings, and you'll see why, because every team in the American League is still within 3 games of each other. Highlanders are a half game away from the Red Sox. I think that the way I have the schedule drawn up is we're seeing all 4 of these teams play 4 different games. It's like the top first division against the second division, basically. Highlanders are half a game behind the Red Sox, and the Athletics are 3 games behind. Interestingly enough, the Tigers are there in last place, and it's interesting because I was doing a little bit of reading about the Tigers. I think it was for the game that we played yesterday that I wrote up, and they were close to last place at this point in time in the regular season, in the real season as well. Over in the National League, as you know, it's the Cubs and the Pirates so far. Pirates are starting to come out of nowhere. We're still waiting on the New York Giants and kind of wondering what's happening to them as they're kind of here in this big mix. But yeah, we're seeing a lot of American League Baseball here because we have a lot of games to play. Here is Charlie Hemphill to lead this one off for the Highlanders. And the first rule of the game is a 31 for a 9 against Vickers. That is a base hit, but he is then caught stealing because of the little C, and there's 1 out. And here comes Wee Willie Keeler. Vickers up there has 1.44 ERA. I'm looking up here to see, does it show his won-loss record anywhere, and it looks like it doesn't. That's okay. Well, there it is right here, 0-2, despite the great ERA. Keeler now rolls to 22 for a 7, and that's going to be a base hit over to right field, and that brings up Harry Niles with a runner on first base. We're going to take a quick look at Keeler. He does have that 11. You know what I like to do. I love to hit and run with him. And the rule is a 35 for a 36, which means that Keeler gets the stolen base on a wild pitch by Vickers and is able to move over to third. And that's going to be a problem, isn't it? We're going to pull the infield in. Niles is just going to swing away. And the rule is a 42 for a 22, which has changed to an 18, which is going to be an error on the shortstop. That error is on Nichols, and the Athletics are really starting to have a hard time of it. This is not exactly what they were expecting. Although maybe it is what they should be expecting considering what they've played like so far this season. Hal Chase up there now, 1-0 Highlanders. Chase with a chance to do something rolls a 31 for a 9. That's another base hit. Little C, of course, does not come into consideration because there's no base for Chase to steal. Aha, you say. Now you understand a little bit more about how that little C system works. Yeah, there's a lot of thought that has to go into it because you're not always going to have a free base to steal. There's a certain percentage of the time when you won't. I'll pause here and just let you know that I have been doing my own work trying to deconstruct the old national pastime baseball game, and I'm running into a lot of kind of complicated and confusing thoughts like that. It's a little bit harder than it looks, guys. This idea that these are a bunch of kids' games and anybody could come up with is not true. You try it yourself. Stahl rolls a 23 for a 32, and that's a fly ball over to Murphy in right field. He makes the catch 2 away, and here's Neil Ball. And Balls rolls a 21 for a 30. It's a fly ball over to left. It's going to be Hartzell who grabs that one for the out. We go to the bottom of the first, and here's Topsy Hartzell. Rolls a 36 for a 30. That's a pop fly over to Stahl in left field. 1 away. Harry Davis now. He rolls a 34 for a 44. The little E does pop up, but the roll is a 36. That is going to be a fly ball over to Hemphill in center. 2 outs, and here's Eddie Collins. Collins rolls a 65 for a 35, and we do have a little E roll before we make any conclusions. The roll, though, is a 55. That's a foul out over to Chase, the first baseman. He's able to grab that one for the out. Top of the second, here is Whit Conroy. Conroy rolls a 45 for a 14, and he ends up as the runner on first. Conroy does have an 11, but with Kleinow up there, I'm not sure if we want to hit and run or not. Let's try it once. Let's see what happens. Rolls a 54 for a 45, and yeah, we should have bunted, I think, instead. So Chesbro's up there, and instead of hitting and running, we're going to bunt with Jack. The roll is a 12 for a 25, and that ends up being a pop-up over to the catcher, Schreckengost, who makes the play and then throws over to Davis to double off Whit Conroy, and we go to the bottom of the second inning. Here is Danny Murphy. And Murphy up there, he rolls a 55. 55 is going to be an 8, which means against Chesbro that's a little ground ball over to Ball, the shortstop, who throws to first for the out. 1 away, and here is Rube Oldring. Rube rolls a 34 for a 44. There is a little E that comes up, though, and it's a 31, which is out of the range, and that's a little fly ball over there to Hemphill for the second out. And here comes Jimmy Collins. Collins rolls an 11 for a 0, and what happens next? The next one is a 61 for a 6. That's going to be a double. Now, Chesbro does have this L, which theoretically could allow Collins to hit a home run, but because of the rules of the game, Collins has no home runs in real life, which means that he does not get the chance to turn this into a home run. That's something, as I've said before, the Diamond Mine misses. Simon Nichols now rolls a 53 for an 18. This is randomized, changed to a 22, which means that Jack Chesbro it means that Collins is able to steal third base because there's 2 men out, and that means Nichols is still up there now with a runner on third. His rolls a 12 for a 25. There is, however, a little E that pops up, and this time the roll's a 32. It's out of the range. It's a line drive back to Vickers, who snags it before it snags him. We go to the top of the third. Here's Charlie Hemphill. Charlie rolls a 35 for a 9. That's another single off of the B pitcher Vickers, but then he's caught stealing. One away for Wee Willie Keeler, and he rolls a 35 for a 14, and there's a walk, and he'll take his base, and that brings up Harry Niles. We'll hit and run again and see what happens, and the roll's a 42 for a 22. Niles is hit by the pitch and takes his bag. That brings up Hal Chase with Stahl on deck. Chase hitting 194. Stahl, I think, is a better hitter. We are going to bunt with Hal Chase. One out here, top of the third inning, and the roll is a 62 for a 12, and that's a strikeout as Chase fouls off 3 straight pitches trying to bunt. Here comes Stahl. That's a really poor roll for Chase. Stahl's roll is a 31 for a 9, and that's a single that beats out the infield hit, and that will field the bases now for Neil Ball. 1-0 Highlanders here, top of the third, bases loaded, and Ball rolls a 21 for a 30. It's a fly ball over to Hartzell in left field. He makes the play for the out. We go to the bottom of the third inning, and here is Aussie Schreckenghost. Pitch over to Schreckenghost, and he rolls a 41 for a 28. That's a ground ball over to Ball at short. Throws over to first for the out, one away. Vickers now. Rube Vickers rolls a 41 for a 24. Another ground ball over to Ball. Throws to first for the out. 2 outs, and here's Topsy Hartzell. He'll roll a 46 for a 29. That's a comebacker. Goes back to Chesbro. Throws to first for the out. We go to the top of the fourth. Highlanders have had all the highlights so far. Whit Conroy rolls a 46 for a 29. Comebacker to Vickers. Throws to first. 1 out. Red Kleinow rolls a 54 for a 45. There's a little E roll, and it's a 34. That is out of the range, and that's a fly ball over to the right fielder, and it will be Murphy catching that one for the second out. Here's Jack Chesbro, and the roll for Chesbro is a 61 for a 13, and we can just forget that it all happened. That's a strikeout. Go to the bottom of the fourth. Harry Davis now for the White Elephants, and he rolls a 12 for a 24. There is another little E roll. We've had a whole ton of these little E rolls. This one's 33. It's out of the range. That's a ground ball over to Ball at shortstop. Throws to first for the out. 1 away. Eddie Collins now rolls a 42 for a 13 and will strike out. That's Chesbro's first strikeout of the game. And here comes Danny Murphy. Murphy rolls a 22 for a 7. Good base hit. Clean hit for Murphy. And that brings up Rube Oldring, who rolls a 65 for a 35. That's a pop-up over to Kleinow, the catcher, and he has it for the out. We go to the top of the fifth. Charlie Hemphill rolls a 26 for a 27. That is a ground ball over to third base. Collins throws to first for the out, 1 away. Wee Willie Keeler rolls a 32 for a 26. That's a ground ball to Eddie Collins, who throws to first for the out, 2 outs. Harry Niles now rolls a 26 for a 27, and that's a ground ball again over to Collins. Throws to first for the out, and it will be Jimmy Collins, who leads off the bottom of the fifth inning. And Collins rolls a 52 for a 27, which is a ground ball over to Conroy. The third baseman throws to first for the out, 1 away. Simon Nichols now. He rolls an 11 for a 0, and he has a couple of those ones. Let's see if we can get one. Next rolls a 15 for a 2. That's going to be a triple over to left center for Nichols. And that will bring up the catcher, Schreckenghost, with the big run on third base. We're going to have him bunt, and we got the infield in, and let's see what happens. Rolls a 32 for a 26. That's a foul strike. 1 strike now on Aussie Schreckenghost. And let's go take a little look over here. And the next roll is a 14 for a 43. And the little E number is not changed. Okay, so we have a little E roll. This would be an interesting time for one, but unfortunately the roll's a 65 out of the range. And that's another bunt for a foul strike. And that means we will have the infield in, but we're not going to have him try to bunt again. This time he rolls a 45 for a 14, and he gets the walk, and that brings up Rube Vickers, now runners on first and third. And a key moment in this ball game, and we are going to pull the infield in, and we are going, actually, I'm going to put on the suicide squeeze, and we are going to bunt here with Vickers. Vickers with a lot of those ugly 13s. Remember, that's just a foul strike. His roll is a 64 for a 13. Oh, and I was wrong. Bunt, and there's a strike. The runner thrown out at home, and Schrecken goes over to second, so he misses the bunt. My apologies. I was thinking of the wrong thing. And so, unfortunately for the Athletics, that run is thrown out trying to score as Vickers tries to bunt. Streckengo is still on a second base. Next roll for Vickers is a 22 for an 8, which is a base hit, and that will score the runner. And that means that the game is now tied at 1. And so even though the Athletics were unable to score on that sacrifice bunt, they are able to get the run home. And now it's a 1-1 ball game here in the bottom of the 5th inning. And this game, which I thought was not going to be this close, has turned out to be kind of a dandy, and it's turned out to be pretty exciting. Neither of these teams, as you might know from your baseball history, are really all that good and are worth writing home about. But boy, that was a really interesting play there by Vickers, who found on that bunt attempt and was able to put it away in the end. Topsy Hartzell now rolls a 25 for a 9, and that's a ground ball over to the third baseman Conroy. Wood throws over to first for the out. We go to the top of the 6th. Hal Chase. Chase rolls a 42 for a 13, and that's a strikeout. 1 out, and here's Jake Stahl. Stahl rolls a 63 for a 31. A little fly out over to Oldring in center field for the out. 2 away. Here is Neil Ball, and he rolls a 23 for a 32. It's a fly ball over to Murphy and right, and we go to the bottom of the 6th. Here's Harry Davis. Davis rolls a 44 for an 8, and there's a single to left center field. So Chesbro having a hard time keeping these Athletics in line, and we are going to hit and run here with Davis on first, and here comes Eddie Collins. His rolls a 54 for a 45. That's a little fly ball over to Keeler in right field for the first out, and that'll bring up Danny Murphy. We'll do a hit and run again. This time the roll is 56 for a 30, and that's a fly ball over to Stahl the other way around. 2 outs, and here's Rube Oldring. And Oldring's rolls a 52 for a 27. That is going to be a ground ball over to Conroy, who throws over to Niles covering second for the out. We go to the top of the 7th, still 1-1. Wood Conroy now. 35 is the roll, 13 the result. That's a strikeout for Vickers. 1 away. Here's Red Kleinow. He rolls a 54 for a 45, and here comes that little E roll that we love so much. The roll is a 34, and that's out of the range. That's a fly ball over to Murphy, the right fielder, for the second out, and that brings up Jack Chesbro. Chesbro rolls a 54 for a 45, another fly ball over to Murphy, and he makes the play. Go to the bottom of the 7th, and it's Jimmy Collins up there now, and his rolls a 15 for an 8. That's a single to left center field. Means he's the runner on first base with Simon Nichols up there, and we're going to do a bunt, not a hit and run. And the roll is a 31 for a 14, and that's a base on balls. Remember, the 14, when you're sacrificing, counts as an actual 14. That means that Shrek Ghost will be up there now with runners on first and second and nobody out, bottom of the 7th. His roll is a 36 for a 33, and that's going to be a strikeout. Nobody thrown out, though, as a result, and there's 1 away. Here comes Rube Vickers. So we've had a number of attempts at a bunt and no actual sacrifice hits yet. Vickers rolls a 33 for an 8, which would normally be a base hit to score a runner. Instead, it's a bunt back to Chesbro, who throws over to the second baseman Niles, covering at first for the out. 2 away for Topsy Hartzell, runners in second and third. His rolls a 15 for a 11, and that will score both. That makes this a 3-1 ball game for the Athletics. And so very good play there by Hartzell with 2 outs, able to get that base hit, driving both runners, and then is able to steal second base with the next batter, Davis, up there. There we go. And it goes to show you that you never know exactly what's going to happen. The Athletics finally have broken through. 3-1 is the score, and here comes Harry Davis. Chesbro will probably stay out there for the time being. Davis's roll, though, is a 33 for a 0. And the next roll is a 25 for a 2, and that's going to score 1. And Chesbro has seen his letter grade drop, and he's starting to get shelled, and I think we're going to make a pitching change. Kind of a rare event. If you've been watching these games, you know that I don't like to make these pitching changes all that much. Let's see if we can figure out somebody else that we could put in. Maybe Joe Lake, maybe Rube Manning. Manning, though, mostly a starter. I was looking at the game started, which I'm going to probably use to make my decision, and I'm thinking maybe Fred, he was always a starter, Fred Glade. Probably will actually not start that much. I think we're going to put in Slow Joe Doyle. I think that's what the decision is. In comes Slow Joe Doyle to come in relief of Chesbro, who has been kind of shelled here in the bottom of the 7th inning. 4-1 Athletics now. And Collins rolls a 46 for a 27, and that's a ground ball over to third base. It's Conroy who has it, throws over to first base for the out. We go to the top of the 8th. Charlie Hemphill now up there for the Highlanders. He rolls a 43 for a 29. That's a comebacker over to Rube Vickers, throws to first for the out, 1 away. And here is Willie Keeler. rolls a 63 for a 31. That's a fly ball over to Oldring in center. 2 out. And here's Harry Niles. He rolls a 42 for a 22. That's changed to an 18. Then ends up being a ground ball over to Nichols, who bobbles it for an error, second error of the game and on the Athletics, and that will bring up Hal Chase. Chase rolls a 31 for a 9, and that's a ground ball over to the third baseman Collins, who throws over to first for the out. We go to the bottom of the 8th. Here comes Danny Murphy. Murphy rolls a 63 for a 31. That's a fly ball over to Hemphill in center, 1 out. And here's Rube Oldring. He'll roll a 16 for a 28. It's a ground ball again over to Ball. The shortstop throws to first for the out, 2 away, and it's Jimmy Collins. Collins rolls a 65 for a 35. There is a little E-roll, and it's a 62 out of the range. That's a little foul ball that goes over to the first baseman, and it's going to be Chase making the catch. And we go to the top of the 9th inning, and now we get to see if Vickers can make this happen or not. Vickers' ERA now is 1.38. Batted against average is 203, pitching well. Jake Stahl, the first batter, rolls a 34 for a 44. Has a little fly ball over to Oldring, the center field, for 1 out. Here's Neil Ball. He rolls a 13 for a 14, and he'll walk. Still, it doesn't mean much at this point. Whit Conroy now with a runner on first base, and Neil Ball, and he rolls a 34 for a 44. Another fly ball over to Oldring in center field for the second out. That brings up Red Kleinow. Red rolls a 52 for a 27. That is a ground ball over to the left side. Jimmy Collins grabs it, flips over to Eddie Collins a second. They make the force play, and that ends this ball game. 4-1, the Athletics win. The Highlanders go down to 5-4. Athletics up to 4-6. And the American League is still converging together into that 500 spot. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens. I know it's early. It's still late April, but as we move along, there's going to be a lot of games to play, a lot of baseball in front of you. Hope you enjoyed that one. I'll see you tomorrow with another one. Bye-bye.